Hey Worship Tribe, welcome to video 2 in our little summer series with Jeremy Riddle. I really super enjoyed chatting to him, and I know that you're going to enjoy this conversation. So sit back and enjoy. So Jeremy, what would your message be, and what would you say to our Vineyard songwriters?
If we haven't learned how to worship God, we should be writing, worship songs. Sometimes I think that becomes like the thing we just kind of do as a form or as a habit. And ultimately, I just want to see. I'm like, I want to grow this heart first, And sometimes you got to go on someone else's journey, like before you're ready to go on your own. And sometimes as a community, you're better off. Let me just say this. I'll be honest. Sometimes you're better off singing other people's songs. And you're better off like going on that journey and letting the authority that they've grown in and the heart that they've cultivated over the years, you're letting that form your community first, and then going on your own journey. I'm really glad that I didn't try and build a community out of the songs I was writing as a 16-year-old. Like I don't think it would have been mature enough or whole enough, or would have produced the thing that I actually ultimately wanted that community to produce. And so I do think there's a maturing and growing like in that phase, but ultimately it's so like it's part of how we grow as families. We learn how to create together. We learn how to take the thing that God's doing inside of us, and we find language for it. It's the most exciting, glorious, beautiful, thing, as long as it doesn't become something again exclusive. I love the value, but learning how to champion again. I'm more looking at a culture of worship that I want to see developed, which means that I'm looking for any song that carries the vibrancy of that value, and I want to play the credit of that song because I want to see the value, the passion, the heart, the authority that song carries released into the community that I'm leading. And I want to write those songs too, and I definitely try. So I think creativity is the most beautiful builder of family, builder of community. It's a way that we learn how to share our hearts and learning how to take. There's something about the weight when you come to a journey and someone's written a song that's just carrying what God's done in your community. There's nothing like it. So I want to encourage it. I think if I were to encourage young songwriters and people trying to grow in this, I think the biggest thing is you got to meet together and you got to learn how to give feedback to each other. You got to learn how to really love one another and grow one another, in this craft, because there is a real craft to it, And I've honestly never seen a great worship song. Very rarely do great worship songs come from one writer. They usually, like the ones, it's like they come through the fire of community. They get refined by community, and then they become an actual useful vehicle for community. And I used to think I came from this very independent, private way of writing. I remember the very first time someone tried to speak into one of my songs, I was like, all so offended, by it, and I'm like, now I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. I hate feedback, by the way. Like, I never like someone giving me feedback. I detest it, but I am such a believer in the fruit and the power of it that I endure the process. I subject it because I know it's going to make for something beautiful and vibrant. And only bring that out to people initially who can help you like grow that, nurture that, because sometimes I think young creatives, they expose something too soon and they just get annihilated, and their hearts aren't able to recover. And I hate seeing that. So you got to be careful in that journey about, kind of progressively, but the safest place initially is in family, in community, and I think there's such power in that. That said, again, it's not necessarily the highest value that I have, just going like, anytime I'm leading a group of people, I'm like, where are these people strong in? But where are they deficient? Like, what are the nutrients, these worship nutrients? Like, okay, so we understand intimacy with God, but do we understand faith? Like, do we understand how to worship God in faith? Because if we overemphasize one value without cultivating the other, we can create something that's a little bit it's a little bit sickly, you know, like it's a little bit like any deficiency kind of creates a sickliness. So if we have just, you know, if in our own if our own makeup of songs we have just a bunch of songs like, wow, we have major on intimacy, we've got lots of inner court songs, but do we have songs that bring in the journey? What about the greatness of God? You know, I remember Redmond coming in back in the day and going like, hey, you guys have done this intimacy really, really powerfully. What about reverence? Like, where are the songs that just carry this holy, majestic reverence for the Lord? And I remember initially kind of being a little tweaked, a little offended, like, how dare you, you know? And at the same time, I looked at it and I'm like, oh, no, I think he's onto something. You know, like, we have to look at this healthy, you know, diet, of songs and going like, okay, yes, homegrown songs, you know, and sometimes we have to look outside of our stream to find, you know, those ones of like certain streams that kind of carry certain things. Isn't that so interesting how they do that, you know? And to allow those things to kind of help us and journey. And again, I think John Wimber is so brilliant. He talked about the phases of the heart. And it's been very, very helpful for me. I break my songbooks down through this thing to this day. I look at songs that just set the tone, that they're songs of invitation, you know, that go like, come and now is the time to worship, most classic Vineyard like tune, like, this is what we're here to do, this is what we're going about, you know, it's like this opening thing. And then songs of declaration. Like we need songs that simply declare who God is. And you know, it's so funny, if you break a song down as songs of declaration, songs of response, you find songs of response are about that thick and songs of declaration are about that thick. You know, songs that literally just set the table on who God is, like they're actually hard to find, you know, like, and so when you look at your diet, when you look at the culture of worship that you're forming, like almost looking at it, you know, through those lenses of like, are we overly majoring on something? What are we deficient in? You know, and I think it's really, really important, even as a community looking at that, of going, and instead of just going, like, let's just write whatever comes out of our hearts, even intentionally going like, man, what do we need as a community? Like, what is God wanting to awaken in our community? How do we begin to write towards that? Like, going on a journey. Like, I think that's really important, you know? Because some of these songs, you realize, like a song of response, the reason why there's so many are written is because it's the most natural song a worship leader can write. So I just love the journey. But again, looking at it from a pastoral, you know, of sense of just ultimately what I want to form. I want to form a vibrant worshiper. The whole point of a song is not just to sing a song that carries a little bit, you know, it's the whole point is to ignite people's hearts towards Jesus. These songs are just vehicles. So how do we create the best vehicles that we know how, that carry the thing that the Lord wants to do, that release the heart of worship, that awaken the kind of worshiper that Jesus is, you know, longing, you know? And man, I've just found that, yeah, I have a value for my own songs at some level, and I'm also a terrible leader of my own songs at the same time, because, you know, again, when they hit that value, like I think that's the thing I've learned to carry. Like if a solo I comes out, I'm just like, oh my gosh, that thing is so chock full of the revelation of the nature of God. Like it carries such a, you know, I'm just like, we got to get that sucker in there. You know, like we got to find a way for that kind of thing to infuse life into us.